Okay, let's go. Let's all open 1 Samuel chapter 1. Okay, 1 Samuel chapter 1. Now, today I'm going to start something called 40 days of maturity. Okay, I'm going to start something called 40 days of maturity. So, if you are here today, you are here for day 1. 40 days of maturity. I want to teach you maturity over the next 40 days. Because, see, when God was teaching to his, of course, when Jesus had to start ministry, right? How many days did he fast?
40 days.
So 40 days will change you, 40 days have some principle in it where 40 days can change a person. If you go to the gym for 40 days, you'll keep going for the entire year. 40 days is the key, If you do something for 40 days, you've done it enough. Let me ask you a question. How many times was Jesus tempted in the 40 days? 3 times is mentioned, but he was tempted and tested in every way. The Bible says he was tempted and he was tested in every way that man can be tempted and tested in. So 40 days he was tempted and tested in. That means the devil came and met Jesus so many times over 40 days. You know what happened after 40 days? The devil never came back to Jesus, Never again you read that the devil came to Jesus and tempted him. Do you read it? After 40 days, does devil come back? No, he does not come back. Because he knows this guy cannot. This guy is impossible for me to penetrate. Like I cannot deal and I cannot compromise the effective strength of Jesus. So if you can do something for 40 days, you're probably going to do it for your lifetime. If you can resist the devil for 40 days, I'm telling you that temptation will never come again for you. Like if you're struggling with a temptation, right? If you resist the temptation for 40 days, it's never going to tempt you again. You got it? So today I'm going to start something called 40 days of maturity, which is 6 weeks, which is 6 Sundays. I am going to preach 6 Sundays on maturity. That's 6 times. Maturity, and maturity. I want you to grow up. You know why people have marriage problems? Because they are still acting childish. You know why people have problems in a team? They still act childish. They act like as if they are paying the company. The company is paying you, right? So who do you obey? You obey the company, right? You don't act as if you own the company. Correct? You understand what I'm trying to say? Can somebody give me a response? Yes. Yeah? So I always tell some people, like for example, let's say Sarat is hiring and let's say I'm paying 50,000 rupees. Is 50,000 rupees bad or good? It's okay, right? It's good. Let's say I'm paying 50,000 rupees and I say, for my company, in order to work in my company, everybody has to have clean shave. Let's say to work in my company, all the men should have a clean shave. And I don't know what I should ask for the girls. All the girls should have short hair. Let's say short hair. Okay? All the girls should have short hair. Now, let's say there's no jobs in town and you want a job, Sonia. You come to my company and I say, Sonia, if you want to work in my company, the price is you need to have short hair. Now, if you want the job, you're going to get the short hair, right? If you want, will you come and say, no, this is who I am. If you want to give me, you give me. If you don't want to give me, don't give me. Obviously, I'm not going to give you. Who is in loss? Am I or you? You, right? I'll find some girl who'll get short hair. I'll find some boy who'll get a clean shave. You understand what I'm trying? If you want to come into a company, you need to adapt to that company. You can't act like as if, because of me, this company is benefiting. No, first of all, because of the company, you are benefiting. Correct? So some people need to understand that the company is you are serving the company. And the company is much more serving you. But the company is your master. The Bible says, the student will always be a student. And the teacher will always be even if the student becomes greater than the teacher, the student is still forever you will be a student. You got it? There are some videos, in Kerala, some collector, he will go to his high school and he'll ask his teacher, can you beat me once again? Like how you beat me when I was a child. This guy is an officer, But forever he will be a student. Same way you also. If you are in a company, forever you are an employee. You can't act like as if, I'm the big deal here. You guys need to give me above. Nobody will give you. First, they'll get you. You are the last person to get promotion. You understand what I'm trying to say? So maturity. You need to mature. If you grow, the most problems come because you're immature. So I want to teach maturity. Okay, 6 weeks of maturity, right? 40 days of maturity. So every day, every week I want to give you a memory verse. How is that? When was the last time you had memory verses? I don't know. How many verses do you get? So every week I want to give you a memory verse. Every day I want to say something to you. So if you are not in the Eagle Mount Community Church group, right? Everybody join. Every day I want to share something about maturity. I want to get the team to post one video every week. I want to do something for 40 days that you will not be recognizable over the next 40 days. You got it? So will you stay linked with the church? Of course, I know, James, you're leaving to Mangalore. But if you want to get mature, right? If you're interested, stay linked. Watch our services live. You got it? 1 Samuel chapter 1. Okay? 1 Samuel chapter 1. And I'm going to ask you several questions. I want you all to answer me, okay? If you read 1 Samuel, first of all, how many of you know the story in 1 Samuel chapter 1? Just look at it. How many of you know the story in 1 Samuel chapter 1? You know? You guys know? Okay, what's the story, Sonia? Elkanah will have how many wives? He'll have 2 wives. Wife number 1 is Hannah. Wife number 2 is Peninnah. Okay, Elkanah has 2 wives. You know why he has 2 wives? Because the first wife could not produce children. Okay? So, how many of you don't know the story? If you tell me honestly you don't know the story, I will tell you the story. How many of you don't know the story? Okay, you don't know. Okay, the story goes like this. There is a man called Elkanah. Okay? See, there's a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim, the mountains of Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah. Go to the next verse. Elkanah had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah and the other was Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had. So this is the story. Hannah had no children. Next one. Every year, this man, he went from his city, yearly, every year. Somebody underline yearly. You know what is the meaning of yearly? Meaning over the longest period of time. I'll ask you a question. Yearly, do you want to grow, or yearly, do you want to stay the same? You want to mature, right? Every year you want to be the better person. Every year you want to multiply. But yearly, when he went to sacrifice and worship at Shiloh, because in Shiloh was where the tabernacle was. Shiloh was where the high priest was. So every year Ephraim, he would take his entire family and go to Shiloh. And next verse. Whenever the time came for Elkanah to make an offering, he would give portions to Peninnah, his wife. So let's say I have Peninnah is one wife. I'll give Peninnah portions. I'll give her gifts. I'll give her an like we went to Singapore. You know what else we did in Singapore other than sightseeing? We did some shopping, right? So I give Prasanna gifts. Prasanna gives me gifts. So when he was going somewhere, this guy would give Peninnah and all of his sons and daughters gifts. Next, but to Hannah, he would give a double portion, because although she did not have children, he loved Hannah. You understand this is the story. Elkanah had how many wives? Hannah and Peninnah. Hannah, did she have children? Peninnah, did she have children? But who did Elkanah love more? Hannah. And he would give her how many gifts? Double, right? So now you tell me, she does not have children, but what does she have? She has love. She has, which is wealth, maybe. Right? She's rich. Can I say she's rich? Yeah, she is rich, right? She's rich, but she has no children. Go to the next one. And her rival provoked her severely to make her. Somebody write down the word miserable. Laddu, write down the word. And her rival provoked her to make her miserable because her womb was closed. Next verse. And so it was again, year after year, year by year, whenever she went up to the house of the Lord, that she provoked her. Meaning, you should listen to me, right? You are remaining the same, but your rival, she's having sons and daughters. 1 year you see her, she has one child. Next year you see her, she has twins again. But you're same, Sometimes life, all of your friends, they grow, but you just stay same, All of the people, all of your peers, they're growing, but you just staying the same. Year after year after year after year. So many, like let's say Instagram followers, right? Let's say I started and you started, and let's say you have 1 million followers and I have only 1,000. So whenever I look at you, I think, oh, she's famous. But when I look at myself, I think, who cares about me? And whenever I meet her, she says, you know what, Sharat, you have only 1,000 followers. You know me, I have 1 million followers. Like, you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Penina would provoke her. Provoke ante Telugulo. రెచ్చగొట్టడం, ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ రెచ్చగొట్టడం అంటే చూసావు, నాకు ఐస్ క్రీమ్ ఉంది, నీకేముంది, నీ దగ్గర మజ్జిగ అన్నం ఉంది. ఐస్ క్రీమ్ అండ్ మజ్జిగ అన్నం, బిగ్ డిఫరెన్స్, రైట్? And she wept and she did not eat. She wept and see, this is the problem, right? This is the problem. When people provoke you, you should not let that provocation come to you. Maturity point number 1. If people provoke you, that provocation should not trigger you. When it triggers you, you'll not have mood for anything else. You'll not have mood to eat. You'll not have mood to meet anybody. You'll not have the mood to smile. And Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why do you cry? Next verse 9 or 8, sorry. Elkanah would say, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? Why is your heart so grieved? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? See, she has everything, but still something is missing in her life. And question, does Elkanah love her? Does Elkanah prove it to her that he loves her? Is that enough for her? Maybe no. Definitely no. Now, is that insulting to Elkanah or not? You understand what I'm trying to say? Elkanah is saying, I love you so much, Hannah. I give you so much stuff. Why do you still weep? I don't want children. Am I not better to you than 10 sons? And still she cries. And still she does not eat. Isn't that insulting? It is. You understand what I'm trying to say? And then Elkanah, so now there are some instances in our life, where no man can help us, where no money can help us, because she had a man who loves her. She had a spouse who loved her so much. She had all the money in the world, right? She had all the things. Some things in your life you cannot do by yourself, Some things, no matter how much money, how much education, how much whatever you have, God will still create gaps in your life where you need the hand of God. Careful. No matter how rich you are still in need of the hand of God. Hannah, for example. She had everything, but she did not have what she wanted. Could anybody do anything about it? Who could do about it? Only God. So she would cry and she would cry and she would cry and she would cry. You know how long would she would cry? Year after year after year. So question, is she growing year after year after year? Not necessarily, right? She's not multiplying. She's not growing. Maybe she has money, but it is not making her feel like I'm worth it. So then verse 9. Hannah arose after they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the by the doorpost near the tabernacle of the Lord. And again, Laddu, you wrote miserable, right, just now? And she was in bitterness of soul. Write down bitterness of soul. She was miserable and she was having a bitterness in her soul. And she prayed to the Lord and wept in anguish. So she was anguished, she was miserable, and she was bitter in her soul. Finally, she prayed to the Lord, Finally, I think probably this is the first time she prayed to the Lord. Until now, she was maybe complaining and telling Elkanah, I'm not enough. Elkanah, something is wrong with me. The center of her life was herself. She would always say, Elkanah, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong? You should first get the focus out of you, you know. Maturity point number 2. Get the focus out about you. And then she made a vow to the Lord and she said, "O Lord of hosts, if you indeed look on the affliction," right? The next thing, she was afflicted. She was miserable. She was bitter in her soul. She was anguished. And then afflicted. You see what? I remember last time I preached about Job. And Job always talks about dying, you know. Oh, chetti sachpoyinda nan jampe. You remember I preached about Job? And he said, "Oh, this tree died, kill me off. Oh, this boat is crashing, kill me off, throw me out. Oh, this whale, Oh, sorry, snap. Jonah. Thank you guys for paying attention. Jonah, right? He always speaks about this tree died, I want to kill myself. Tree grew, kill myself. They are repenting, kill myself. Anything, kill myself. This guy is mad, you know. I'm wondering how God did not kill him already. But you saw, right? I showed you how many times he talks about death. It's better you just kill me instead of save. Like Jonah is the kind of guy who, if he saw his enemy in heaven, he would rather go to hell, you know. Jonah is that guy. He's like, it is better that you kill me than you go save them, it seems. How many times he's talking about, see, this is what I'm telling you, right? If you keep talking about your anguish, your bitterness, your sorrow, and what else, your miserableness, and your affliction, you will become like that. You can't keep saying, oh, maybe they don't like me. Elkanah, what am I doing? What am I any good? If you keep saying that, you know, one day Elkanah also will leave you, you know. He'll say, I can't do enough for you. Just go find somebody else. I don't know. Maybe something is wrong with me. And then she's saying, "O Lord of hosts, if you indeed look upon the affliction of your maidservant and remember me, and do not forget your maidservant, but you will give your maidservant a male child, then I will give him to you all the days of his life. No razor shall come." Very good. Next. And it happened as she continued praying before the Lord, Eli watched her mouth. Next, Eli will say, "Why are you so drunk? Go away." Then she will say, "I'm not drunk. I am a woman of Malirai, sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor intoxicating drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord." Next, "Do not consider your maidservant a wicked woman." That means, what is she thinking? She's thinking, oh, everybody thinks I'm a... Because if you don't have children, right, people say that's a curse, you know. So she's probably thinking that everybody else is thinking that I'm a wicked woman. So if you think that everybody thinks you are wicked, will you have the confidence to go in public? No, right? If you think everybody thinks bad about you, or if you think everybody thinks you are ugly, will you go out in public? No, right? Why do we dress up? We dress up to kind of look good, right? But if you dress up your best and still people say, hey, this guy is very ugly, you know. Will you want to go anywhere? No, right? Yesterday, Prasanna bought some... so there was a mosquito that bit my daughter here, okay, on the eyelid. So Prasanna was angry. So she said, let me order a mosquito mesh. So first of all, our bed is like, it's big, okay? Then she ordered a mosquito mesh that surrounds the bed. It's like an igloo now. You know, an igloo. So then after I put the mosquito mesh, and first of all, so we can't sit straight. Now, how many of you traveled in a train and you're sleeping on the berth? You can't stand up, you know, on the train. So the mesh is on top of my head. I can't stand up or I can't sit up. You know what I'm trying to say? So then Prasanna came and she asked me, Sharat, how do you think the mesh is? I said, yeah, I don't care about it. Then Prasanna said, Sharat, you're so arrogant. You just said, I don't care about it. I put so much thought in for my daughter. I said, you know what, Pras, I like it. I'm not, no, like seriously. Like if you give her an answer saying, I don't care about it, of course she's not going to like do something special for me the next time, right? Like if she cooks for me biryani and says, how is the biryani? I say, I don't care about it. Will she ever cook for me again? No, right? She'll say, oh, this guy doesn't care about my biryani. I'll just cook him whatever. Maybe she'll not even cook anymore. You understand what I'm trying to say? So then she said, what did you say? Yeah, I don't care is a very lousy statement. Like, I'm not putting thought. So then I actually thought, yeah, maybe it is lousy. Maybe actually think about the mesh for a second. Then I thought about the mesh. And I said, you know what? If it keeps the mosquitoes out, I don't mind feeling like I'm in a train. Then I said, yeah, thank you. What my point is my wife cares about what I think about her. You care about what others think about you. Hannah cares about what others think about Hannah. And what does Hannah think everybody thinks about her? She thinks everybody thinks I'm wicked. So write down wicked. Laddu, you wrote down? And then she says, out of the abundance of my complaint and grief, write down grieving, I have spoken until now. So now how many words did she speak about herself? First word, miserable. Next, bitterness of soul, anguish, afflicted, wicked. How many times did Elkanah tell her, Hannah, why are you crying? Now you tell me. You go and you're trying to calm your friend down. First he'll say, let's say James is my best friend, okay. I go to James and say, James, I feel very miserable. And James will say, Sharat, it's okay, you know what, calm down. Life happens, stuff like this. Then I'll say, James, you know what, I have a bitterness of soul. Then he'll say, it's okay, bro, I already told you, right, it's fine. Then what next? Then I'll say, you know what, everybody thinks I'm bad. James will say, no, I don't think you're wicked. I think you're fine, you know. And then I'll say, I'm very anguished. Now, James, do you think you'll be calm or you'll be like, dude, you need to like grow up. Like you need to get a grip. Because you know what? Nobody cares if you're sad, you know. Life moves on, you know. Very, 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 very unfortunately, my cousin sister, has had a condition on her face where the nerve needed surgery. So in a way, it is a brain surgery, you know. In a way, it is a brain surgery. Now, my sister is suffering and she's on a hospital bed. In fact, she's still admitted in hospital right now in Yashoda. But what am I doing? I took a vacation to Singapore, you know. Life moves on. She's my sister, you know. But I still did it stop me from taking a holiday? Does it stop me from cracking a few jokes and making you laugh? But she's my sister, you know. So my question to you is, not everybody, I'm not saying I don't care about my sister, but this is what I'm saying. Life moves on. Nobody waits for you and nobody is like there for you all the time and trying to tell you, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. If you are not, by the third statement of saying it's okay, if you are not fine, the person who says it's okay also will give up on you. You understand what I'm trying to say, guys? Zephi, ardhamavutundi neeku? So how many times she's saying, I'm miserable, anguish of soul, my complaint, my grief, I'm a wicked woman. Next, sorrowful of spirit, all God knows what all she's saying. And then Eli, he will tell, next, Eli will answer and he'll say, go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition which you asked of him. Next you go. And she said, let your maid servant find favor in your sight. So the So the woman went her way, and God knows in how many years she's eating for the first time, you know. And then she ate. And her face was no longer, you know, people don't like sad people. I absolutely hate sad people, you know. You know why? Sad people make me sad. Right? Sad people make me sad. Do you want your mood to spoil or you want your mood to be happy? So you want to be around happy people, right? I'm slightly distracted, but I want to show you a story, okay? Can you go to Genesis? Be at first, everybody put one finger in this place and let's go to Genesis, okay? Genesis chapter 46, I think. In 47. So, what, you know Joseph, right? How many of you know Joseph? Joseph is the governor of Egypt. And then his brothers will come to Joseph. అర్థమవుతుందా మీకు? Once his brothers come to Joseph, Joseph will say, go bring my father also here. And then they will call, who is Joseph's father, by the way? Jacob. They will call Jacob also to Egypt. And that time in Egypt there will be a famine. And the Pharaoh will say, you know what, Joseph, you've been a very good servant to me. Take them to the land of Goshen. In Goshen, the Goshen is the only place in Egypt where it was green, you know. Everywhere else there was famine. He will say, take your parents and you settle in Goshen. So in chapter 47 of Genesis, Joseph went and told Pharaoh, my father and my brothers, they have all come. You saw that, right? And then Pharaoh said to his brothers, what is your you read 47 verse 1. Okay, he told that they have all come. My father and my brothers, their flocks and their herds, and all that they have possessed has come from the land of Canaan. Indeed, they are in the land of Goshen. Next, he took 5 men from among his brothers and he presented them to Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to his brothers, what do you do? Of course, like when you meet an elderly man, he'll say, hi, what's your name? You say, James. James, what do you do? Of course, right? Like, just like that just like that Pharaoh is asking, so what do you do? They are saying, we are shepherds. And so is our father. Next. Then they said we have come to dwell here in the land and all of that. Next. Then Pharaoh spoke to Joseph and he said, your brothers, Pharaoh is saying to Joseph, your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Give them the best. Next. Then Joseph brought in his father and he set him before Pharaoh. Now listen. Pharaoh is a big man. Joseph's father is also a big man. The big two men are going to meet. And go back. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And next question does not say, how do you do, you know. They say, how old are you? Imagine how badly this Jacob was dressed, you know. I'm telling you, if you're getting some white hair, start coloring your hair. You should, you go to Singapore, you're in Singapore, nobody looks old, you know. But you ask them how old you are, they say 95. Do not look 95. My friend met me the other day and he told me, Sarat, I'm going to see my grandma. I said, how old is your... First of all, this guy is very old, like 40. He said, you're going to see your grandma. How old is your grandma? My grandma is 109 years old. What? Then I asked, what does she do? Then he said, I also don't know. Then I said, does she walk? He said, yes, she walks. Every day morning, she takes the lift and goes for a walk. When is the last time you saw a 109 woman walking? Then I said, show me a picture. And the other day, my other friend called Kim, she put up pictures of her grandparents. Nice young red lipstick, colored hair, nice haircut. Smart woman, you know, 95. But this guy, lousy fellow, comes in front of Pharaoh, all droopy, drooly. And Pharaoh asks him, how old are you? And the next question is, Jacob is trying to explain his lousiness to Pharaoh. And he says, the days of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of my life. And they have not been attained to the days of the years of the life of... Like he's complaining. He's saying few and evil. If I ask you a question, is Jacob satisfied in his life? He's not. You know what happened? Next verse. So Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. Meaning Pharaoh does not want to talk to this guy anymore. Does he want to talk to Jacob anymore? No, does not. You know, in fact, the Jews, the rabbis, the Old Testament, the guys in Israel, they say that God cut out 40 years of Jacob's life because he acted like this, insulting God. He went in front of a pagan king and the pagan king said, how old are you? And he said, few and evil the days of my life have been. And then Pharaoh says, Jesus, let me just get out of here. Same thing with Hannah, you know. Come back. Same thing with Hannah. Finally, she ate and she was sad no longer. So now my first point is, there will be something in your all life which will make you miserable, sad, deep in anguish, bitterness in soul, and it will cause you so much pain. And this thing cannot be filled by any other person except for God. God will create gaps in your life so that you can come to God. Year after year after year, Hannah never went to God, She went to doctors probably, fertility doctor, whoever. She went to her husband maybe. She went to her friends, maybe her relatives. But finally one year she did come to God. And you know what is the sign? The first sign that God has started something good in your life is, what? God will remove your sorrow. The first sign of something good that is happening in your life is God will remove your sorrow. This woman was not, see, I told you, right? Did I start off by telling spirituality is not an accident? I didn't start the sermon by? Okay. Spirituality is not an accident, You have to do something about it. But this woman, it is not because she did something that she was sad no longer. No. It was by divine intervention. God came and he touched her. And you know what happened when he touched her? Her face was sad no longer. You are confused no longer. The sign of a victorious, mature man is that he is afraid no longer. The mature man is sad no longer. A mature woman is insecure no longer. Women look at other women and they become very insecure. Men look at other men's jobs and they become very insecure. No. The moment you know victory is coming is when you are insecure no longer. You should not complain. And then, you know what will happen the moment you gain confidence? The moment you gain confidence, you will start worshipping the Lord. Then they rose early in the morning and they worshipped before the Lord. The moment you have a victory, a sign of victory, you can worship God, Next one. No, sorry. Go back. And they came to their house at Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her. So it came to pass in the process of time, again. Not immediately, Year after year. I told you, right? Yearly they went to the Shiloh. Year after year, this Peninnah would grow up, but Hannah would stay down. But finally, 1 year, she came to God and she said, Lord, remember me. And the Lord did remember her. And in the process of time, you know what it takes to get mature? Time. It takes time to mature. Of course, process also. Nobody can mature in like one day, And in the process of time, Hannah conceived and she gave birth to a son. Next verse. Come to verse 18. Not 18, sorry. Come down and the Lord remembered her. Now come to verse 28. Actually not 28. Come to verse 23. So the Lord, now you know what Hannah prayed in front of God? She prayed and she said, if you give me a son, I will give back the son for you as long as he lives and no razor will touch his. That's what she said, right? You give me a son and I will give it back. So Elkanah, her husband, go back previous verse 22. Elkanah will say, no, go back again 21. Elkanah, and again, now they're again going to their yearly sacrifice. But Hannah didn't go up. Next verse, Hannah will not go up. She will say, I will not come until my child is weaned. Then I will take him and appear before the Lord and he can stay there. Then Elkanah will say, do what seems best to you. Wait until you have weaned him. Only let the Lord establish his word. He's saying, Hannah, see, this son who is born, right? He's God's answer. Now you don't mess with it and don't say, I'm not going to come to the temple. You do what seems best to you, but let the Lord establish Samuel because that's what you said. Then the woman stayed and then she weaned and then she took him up. Next. And then she took him up and the child was young. Next, you come down. Verse 28. Therefore, she will say, I have lent him. What is the meaning of lent? Loan, not give. So basically, God is borrowing Samuel from Hannah. First of all, who gave Samuel? God. Then what is this whole conversation of lent? Because Hannah is very intelligent, Give and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, running over, it will be poured out into your bosom. For the same measure that you do measure unto God, it will be measured back unto you. So Hannah is saying, Lord, Samuel is not yours fully. Because until you give me more children, Samuel is a loan to you. So basically, God now has to pay interest to. You understand what I'm trying to say? See, this is mature Christianity, where you are able to give, believing God will give you back. Okay, now you see, so they worshipped God there. Come to 2nd chapter verse 11. 2nd chapter verse 11. Then Samuel remained there. 1 Samuel chapter 2 verse 11. Samuel remained there. Let's wait. 2nd chapter 2 verse 11. And Elkanah went to the house, but correct. And Elkanah went to his house. He went back. But the child, who is the child? Samuel. He ministered to the Lord before Eli the priest. Underline ministered. Now, same chapter, you come to verse 18. Verse 18. But Samuel again here ministered before the Lord even as a child, wearing a linen ephod. You know who can wear a linen ephod? An ephod means nothing but it's a gown, It is a linen gown. Like women wear nighties, right? It's like it's a gown like that, And only the high priest can wear it. But God, he saw this Samuel guy and he said, this guy is worthy of an ephod because he's my loan. And he's ministering before me, and I will give him a linen ephod. You see the next one, and Eli, next verse. 20, verse 20. And Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife, and say, the Lord give you descendants from this woman for the loan that was given to the Lord. Then they would go their home. Actually, you go back to your one previous verse 19. Moreover, his mother used to come, bring a robe year after year. Again here, year after year. So, I want you to understand the picture, okay? Year after year, she was barren. 1 year, she decides, let me cry to God. Then year after year, in the process of time, Samuel is born to her. Then she goes and leaves Samuel in the house of the Lord. Then year after year, she would go to the temple and she would give him a little robe. Next verse. And year after year, Eli would bless them. And he would say to them, may the Lord give you more descendants through this woman because of the loan that you have given. Verse 21. And the Lord visited Hannah, that she conceived, and she bore how many sons?
3 sons
and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the child grew before the Lord. Now, here's I'll tell you another secret, okay? Hannah could not have had children if not for Eli. I'll tell you. Hannah must have been crying before the Lord, but Eli had to be the person who opened her womb. The Lord closed her womb, right? You read just now when we were reading, the Bible said she had no children because the Lord closed her womb. Some doors can only be opened by the priest. I will make a petition for you. Very important. Eli said, okay, now you go in peace. May what you prayed come to pass. After Samuel is born, Eli said, may the Lord give you more children because of the loan. If Eli didn't say, nothing would have happened, This is what I say. There are many sheep. Maturity point again. There are many sheep, but not all have shepherds. Next time you meet a Christian, you ask, who is your shepherd? They don't know, Who is your shepherd? If they say Jesus, wrong answer. Jesus said you have to go to a church. You need to find a body of Christ and then you need to find a pastor. Somebody who knows your problem. Somebody who knows your barrenness and somebody who can speak into that closed door and who can open it. People trust everybody else but not their shepherd. Today we have very less shepherded Christians. Hannah took so much time to get shepherded. You know why? Because she was so bothered by what Penina was saying, she was not listening to what Eli would say. You understand what I'm trying to say? She was so bothered. అంటే ఆమె ఎట్లా అయిపోయిందంటే పక్కింటోడు ఏం చెప్తున్నాడో బాగా అర్థం చేసేసుకుంది, కానీ పాస్టర్ ఏం చెప్తున్నాడు అసలు వినట్లా. But the moment she listened to Eli, she was sad no longer. Amen. The moment she listened to Eli. Do you want to look at that verse? Verse 18 or 17, I think. And Eli answered and said, go in peace and grant you your petition of what you have asked of him. And she was no longer sad. The reason that Hannah was no longer sad is because the pastor or because the high priest declared a word over her. You understand? All of you here should have a pastor, you know. All of you should mature. That's why when you guys are getting married, you know, in fact, once you're getting married, they'll ask the boy's pastor to come. Why? Because even if the boy is lying, the pastor will not lie, you know. You know what I'm trying to say? They'll ask which church you go to. Who is your pastor? They want to know. I just don't want to know the sheep. I want to know the shepherd. Today there are many shepherdless sheep. There are many fatherless children. There are many kites without a string. There are many ships without a rudder. What is the point? You are directionless. You are anchorless. If you want to come to a country, my brother is on a ship right now, and if he wants to come to a country, they get anchored to the harbor. If they don't get anchored to the harbor, no point, you know. You just might as well be in the sea. You need to get anchored. So then Eli, year after year, he will say to Hannah, Hannah, may the Lord bless you and give you more children. That's why, you know, week after week, we pray, may the Lord enlarge your tents. So then Hannah will start singing one song. Come to verse. You guys go. I'm running out of time because I preached quite a long time today. Come to 2 Samuel chapter 2. This is Hannah's prayer, you know. She will pray. But I want to read verse 4 and 5, okay? She will say, the bows of the mighty men are broken. You know why? Because she was mighty, you know. She was rich. She had a wealthy husband. She could have gotten any wealth she wanted. How many of you know something called the Silk Road? You guys know what is the Silk Road? So the Silk Road, you know the three wise men from, some people from India, they went to meet Jesus, right? They went on the Silk Road. The Silk Road is nothing but it's one small string. By the way, India is very fertile in the south. But as you go north, you know, it's basically just mud and desert, you know. Himalayas, Ladakh, Gulmarg, all these places, there's no vegetation. There's not much that grows. Okay? Kazakhstan, Turkestan, Iraq, Iran, what else countries are there in the northeast? Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Uzbekistan, all of this, Afghanistan. Not much vegetation. But there is only some people who would from China and from India and from the east, you know, they would take some spices like cumin and what is that, elaichi. They would take these spices and they would go journey and journey and journey and journey. They would stop in Turkey, you know. In Turkey, there is something called the Grand Bazaar. It is like about 2,000 years old. People still go there. And stuff there is super expensive. You cannot buy anything. But there you'll get frankincense, myrrh, and all of these things that the wise men took to Jesus. And then after that, you go and you go and you go. You'll go to Jerusalem, Bethlehem. You'll go to Italy and you'll go to Rome. That was the single greatest highway of the past. That's the Silk Road. You know, if you were rich, that means you had businesses associated with the Silk Road. Everybody in the past, in the Bible, who were rich, they were, see, that's why, you know, when people wanted to sell Joseph, the brothers, they wanted to sell Joseph, they saw these brothers, they saw the brothers of Ishmaelite men, they were going to Egypt with spices. And they say, do you want to buy our brother also? So they buy the brother also. These guys were on the Silk Road. Elkanah was probably super rich, If you go to the Middle East, I'm telling you, and you go to this grand bazaar and you want to buy a nice carpet, that carpet itself will be like some 10 lakhs, Small carpet. The rugs that they put on their beds. When you look at it itself, it's not like something you have seen in Shobha Decors or IKEA. Your eyes are not enough to look at those materials. Imagine how rich and mighty Hannah must have been. That Elkanah could manage 2 wives. And not just manage 2 wives, give Hannah a double portion. Then she's saying, may the mighty men's bows be broken. Meaning, no matter how much money I have, I still didn't have a son. And those who stumbled are girded with strength. She's saying see, that's what I'm telling you, right? When we Christians, we look at somebody who's mighty, we get scared and nervous. No. The bows of the mighty are broken because they don't have what we have. And the stumbled are girded with strength. The next verse. Those who were full, because she was full, right? She was very rich. Those who were full have hired themselves out for bread. See, imagine you were once so rich that you had so much bread, but today you are saying, can you give me a job? I want some bread. And the hungry have ceased to hunger. Imagine that. Even the barren has borne 7 children. Hannah, she only. Even the barren has borne 7 children. And he who has many children has become feeble. The Lord kills and he makes alive. He brings down to the grave and brings things up. Next, the Lord makes poor and he makes rich. He brings low and he lifts up. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the beggar from the ash heap, to set them among the princes and make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set up the world upon them. I'm over. I'm done. My sermon is over. This is what the Lord says. If you feel like you are mighty, he's going to break your bow, That's why I preached in team devotion today. The rich young ruler, he will come to Jesus and he'll say, I want to follow you. Jesus will say, you keep the 10 commandments. Then he'll say, I keep them already, And then Jesus will say, then obey your mother and father. Then he'll say, of course I do that. Then he'll say, you give your tithe. Then he says, I do that also. Then Jesus will and he'll say, let me raise the standard. You're rich and you're young. Why don't you sell all your possessions and you come follow me? And he cannot do that, That's what I'm telling you. Your wealth and your riches, they are nothing. The mighty men's bows, they are broken. Hannah's wealth could not do anything. But until she went and wept before the Lord, when she was weak and feeble, the Lord girded her with strength. And then next what happened? The Lord will make you rich and he will raise the poor from the ashes. And he will set you up among the princes to make you inherit your glory. For the pillar of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set up the world upon them. For all of this, you need a shepherd. Who do you need? You all need a shepherd, You all need an Eli in your life who will tell you something, who will open the closed doors in your life, who will open the healing doors in your life. Many people don't have jobs. They come to church, immediately the closed doors will open, You know why? Because Lord closed them for the pastor to release them. You understand? I don't know what closed doors you have today, but nothing can open them except for the pastor. It's crazy, Even I'm sure Eli also did not know. But this is the way God sets it up. If you want to be mature, you need to come under a shepherd. That's why I preached today and I said, if you want to grow up, the only way to grow up in Christianity is you need to grow down. You need to kneel down before God. The only way forward is you need to go backward. The only way up is you need to kneel down. You need to go down. The only way to increase is you need to first decrease. Like if you want a son, if you want 5 sons, you give your 1 son away. Crazy. If you want some money, you give the money that you have away. The only way to increase in this kingdom principle is if you decrease. You got it? How many of you all understood? Yeah, Hannah was miserable. She was deep in anguish. She was bitter, having bitterness of soul. She was complaining, and then, she was afflicted. All of these things. But the moment she went to the shepherd said, I pray that your petition may be granted. And the moment he said that, all those 7 or 8 complaints that she had was broken. And the barrenness that she had was opened. She was no longer barren. Just because she wept in front of the Lord. You got it? You got it? Good. Let me just pray. Father, Lord, I pray for all the closed doors today. I don't know what people have. Maybe it's marriage. Maybe it is job. Maybe it's salary. Maybe it is future. Not sure what the closed doors are. But I pray in the name of Jesus that, Father, your hand will be upon them. And I pray that you grant the petition of their hearts. And you open the doors of growth. That in the process of time, they will bear the fruit of their prayer. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Let's all stand.